constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. This
News and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally speaking. And join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Hello, good evening. You're listening to the program Legally Speaking on Planet Radio 101.1 FM and Spectrum TV on Star Times. My name is Anthony Ebuka, I'm a legal practitioner with law partners and associates. Welcome this evening. All right, today is going to be a special edition. We'll be opening the phone lines from the beginning of the show. Reasons being that I am going to fly solo, and I hope you have more participation from on calls where you ask questions if you need to. Now, there are two topics we're going to discuss today. One is the suit that was filed by the Incorporated Trustees of Media Rights Agenda, who approached the Federal High Court to set aside a fine of 500,000 naira that was meted on 45 or thereabout media houses in Nigeria by the NBC. A judgment has been issued by the Federal High Court into it. Now, and after that, we'll also look at the issues bordering on the protests or the suits seeking to stop the inauguration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 29th day of May 2023. So let's start with the NBC judgment. Like I said earlier on, the phone lines will be open. You can join the conversation on 090-222-31011. Repeat that number, 090-222-31011. The alternative number to call will be 070-454-17707. I repeat the alternative number, 070-454-17707. Delivered a judgment which held that the NBC, that's Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, has no powers to impose sanctions on broadcasting stations across Nigeria. He made this judgment pursuant to Section 66 sub 6 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which vests the powers to impose sanctions, penalties, fines on the judiciary, that's the court on itself. Now, there has been some concerns by the NBC, there's been concerns by the federal government that the NBC Act has granted them powers to impose some of the sanctions or these sanctions. And when you look at the Act, it's true, the Act has given wide powers to the NBC to impose such sanctions. And besides that, there has been a ruling before now in 2022, a ruling that on a matter that was brought by SERAP, the social, a court action. All right, in 2022, the Federal High Court again had made that concluded that the NBC has the powers to impose sanctions on media houses to supervise and monitor the activities of media houses. However, the recent judgment, which is equally that of the Federal High Court on a concurrent jurisdiction, has now almost, I would say, contradicted the initial order of the Federal High Court of 2022. But what's the legal position here? I want to appreciate the position of the later judgment by James Obotosho that the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, NBC, has the rights and powers to supervise broadcasting and media houses. but yet that it is sacrosanct for the court to impose sanctions when sanctions have to be imposed, and not the embassy being the judge and the jury and the executioner of the judgment by unilaterally saying, okay, you've defaulted on this position of the law. The position of the law, the position of the provision of the act, which says you cannot do this or that, and then hereby sanction you for doing same. Now, if I want to consider it as a lawyer, I would say, yes, that provision is right. You shouldn't, as NBC, be the one, or we shut you down. What if there is a hand of Jacob behind the NBC? Could be the voice of Esau, the hand of Jacob, or the other way around, the hand of Esau, the voice of Jacob. Somebody could be behind the scene, guiding the activities of the embassy, and there's need to have a checkmate. This checkmate will come by way of the court deciding, okay, these persons that are accused of this misdemeanor is guilty as charged and has to pay the fine as provided by the law. And not the embassy saying the law has made provisions for this. Road Safety Commission was also stopped from imposing fines on motorists. The court said, if there is a provision of certain fines, even when it is obvious that the motorist has contravened that provision, for instance, driver's license, maybe the driver had no driver's license, and which is very obvious, I've asked for it and you can't produce it, or broken windshield, which is obvious, everybody can see that, you still don't have the powers to go ahead and say, pay 5,000 naira, pay 500,000, pay 50,000 for driving with a broken windshield. You have to subject it to the court. The court will now ask the questions, get the answers, and decide on if the fine should be imposed at maximum or should be reduced. Because by and large, one could be guilty of an offense, but not very guilty of that offense. For instance, I'm driving to you, and just as I got to the junction, a pole away from the road safety, my glass is smashed, and the particles are all over the place. And road safety would say, you have a broken windshield, so pay a fine. That's double jeopardy. I've just walked in from an accident scene with a broken windshield, and you're asking me to pay the fine. But if it is subjected to the court can look at it and say, well, having regards to the fact that their windshield has just been broken, and there are evidence showing that it's as fresh as 2 hours ago, 1 hour ago, 30 minutes ago, I don't think you should be subjected to the payment of that fine. Go fix your windshield. If by tomorrow or next tomorrow we still see you drive a broken windshield with a broken windshield, then you are liable to pay. Of you, okay. The rest of you, please do not impose fines by yourself. Take these matters to court, and the court will decide. Okay, let's move away from Nigerian jurisdiction and go a little bit to the US, right? If you go to the US, what you will see at US, the United States of America, is that tickets are issued to you as you drive past a street light or somewhere. Tickets are issued, and when these tickets are issued, you don't have road safety following you or anybody. They just issue you a ticket and you go to court. When you get to the court will ask you, you have a parking ticket. The record shows you've had 5 parking tickets or non-parking ticket traffic offenses, and this is how much you are expected to pay. They send the summons to you by mail, and you can be convicted and your license seized. It is not the road safety that will seize your license, and you are blocked on the road, and they ask you, please, you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a tailboard lights, you don't have trafficators, your headlamp is broken, pay a certain amount of money. I think you have a right to go to court and demand that they refund your money and pay you a penalty for usurping the right of law. Now, the next question one want to ask is this. Whereas there are conflicting legal authorities one by both of them by the Federal High Court, both of them in Abuja, but different courts. Whereas there are conflicting judgment of the court of concurrent jurisdiction, which one should we follow? Now, some would say, like the federal government is trying to say, that the first in time supersedes the later positions. All right, given that SERAP did not appeal, or there has not been a ruling on appeal, if there was an appeal, and that judgment was in April 2020, that's SERAP. Now, whereas that judgment has not been set aside, the new judgments cannot repeal the old one because they are court of concurrent jurisdiction. One other school of thought will say, well, the later in time would supersede, but that's at the Supreme Court level. I know that at the Supreme Court level, the later judgment in time will supersede the earlier judgment. But at the lower court where there are concurrent judgments, I doubt if that will be the position. So people will have to wait for interpretation by the court of appeal. All right. Now, the provision of that section 2(1) is that the commission will have the responsibility of determining and applying sanctions, which includes revocation of licenses and defaulting stations which do not operate in accordance with the NBC, the code, and that's the NBC code, and in the interest of the public. Now, that is settled. That's a provision of the law. But what can we do as the owners of this station? Which is why these guys have gone to court and have said, please, if my action was such that I should not be sanctioned, but because the chairman of NBC or the officers of the NBC do not just like my station, so they keep imposing sanctions on me. That's the position with the ABC, National Broadcasting Commission, and the trustees of media houses that went to court. So if you want to call, you can call, ask questions, and make suggestions in line with this position. The numbers to call is 090-222-31011. The alternative number is 070-454-17707. I repeat that number, 070-454-41. Whatever your contributions are, well, we'll take it in good faith and share. All right, so we go on to the second topic for discussion. That will be the suit seeking to stop the swearing in on May 29 of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, a group of hello. Yes, hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I'm calling from Akwa Ibom State.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Okay, my name is Charles.
Charles from Akwa Ibom. All right, sir.
Yeah, the ministers elect or the president elect to make this country a lively country for all the citizens of Nigeria. We need peace in this nation. Thanks.
Soon to be sworn in to make the country a lively country. Well, I don't know. Maybe I guess what he wants to say. That's just my guess. Is that we should try to follow the law, encourage the provisions of the law and the pronouncements of court to be obeyed. I understand that the minister, they do not make comments on judgments of court, rather go to court of appeal it, and see what the position of the appellate court will be, which will now give us closure on the issues surrounding the NBC and media houses. Let's say agencies that have rights of imposition of fines, they share the same faith, because there's been judgment on the road safety, and the judgment of the NBC is following the same line that Section 6 sub 6 of the Constitution has empowered only the courts to make appropriate sanctions. If you want to follow the argument that there has been this a statute, an act of the National Assembly, which empowers us, which has created sanctions, so we can go ahead punish based on those sanctions. It's akin to saying that the police, the Nigerian police force, the criminal code has stated the laws and penalties that for a murder is death by hanging. So the police can go ahead and hang because the person has been caught in the act and has admitted to the facts. So the police can go ahead and hang the person, execute the person. No, you still have to go to court. He pleads guilty or not guilty, and the trial commences and closes, and sentencing is done upon conviction. So, but when you want to pretend that, hello, okay, we lost that call. But when you want to pretend as though, as long as there's been a sanction by the National Assembly, everybody knows the penalties, why do you have to go to court to get the court to approve and sanction? Then the country will be in chaos because you would have rendered the courts redundant, and that's not what we want to see. All right, so we push forward to the issues of the suit seeking to stop the swearing in of the... Hello? Hello? Yes, good evening, sir.
This is Radio Senator and the studio that when you check about Nigeria or Africa generally, there's any place or institution in Africa that can behave like advanced country. Now, you see what happened this time of one of our players, I don't know to call the name. When he used the vehicle and ran past more than the speed limit, he takes it for almost $5,000. And they just came to his house and just told him that, okay, see your charges. And they took him to court. In Nigeria here, which person do you think that the person will not run to Calabar? Those are the things that we cannot... Because sometimes when they talk about Oban, you will see somebody fight somebody like this. They will invite him that, okay, you should come to police station so day. He is the one that will the time that will appear in that police station with his lawyer. How many Nigerians that apply for lawyers, and this is family lawyer, in case anything happens, will call the person and defend it because of poverty in Africa? Nobody can do so. That is why we don't need to compare ourselves. Whatever we see here in Nigeria, follow it. Because the institution is not there for us to drive on. That's what I'm saying. That is why you see they are just riding on us. Okay, see what happened now. They say, what they call it, either hard allowance. Is it good for somebody to just say that
all right. All right, Ray Senator, thank you very much. But we don't have to lose hope in Nigeria. If Nigeria is moving, and I can assure you within the last 10 years there's been a great improvement in human rights in Nigeria. So people actually go to the station with their police, with their lawyers, and even the department of the state CID will require that you come to their station, call your lawyer, you eventually will get there. The BVN is really going to help the system. We are computerizing a lot of things. Nigeria is going electronic. Sometimes when you fail to pay your ticket, road safety ticket, or whatever penalty that has been imposed on you, you might feel you have won until your account is frozen, and you'll be shocked that your account can be frozen by the road safety, and you have to hurry and pay whatever fine was imposed on you with interest. That's when you will know that the BVN has power, and it can track you to wherever you're going to be. Okay, you don't have powers to impose fines, go to court. Yes, they will go to court, and when they go to court, if you were to pay 10,000 naira, there'll be court fees, and there'll be penalties and interest on whatever you were supposed to do, and it probably could amount to 50,000. Then we will know that you don't have to break the laws. All right, so we go over to the 25% controversy. A group of residents of the federal capital as the nation's president. Now, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as we all know, was a standard bearer for the People's Democratic, the All Progressive Congress, and on February 25th, 2023, won the presidential poll with about 8.7 million votes. However, the issue that is plaguing him is that he failed to secure at least 25% votes to represent the members of the FCT, the voters of FCT. Some of the names that appear on the suits are Anyegbunam Okeye, David Adza, Geoffrey Uche, up the inauguration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And they want this question to be answered, whether or not the person to be elected the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and consequently administer Nigeria, administer the FCT through the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory and Development Authority can, by, that's on his first ballot, by section 134 sub 2 sub B of the Constitution, obtain less than 25% of vote cast and become the president. All right, that is that 25%. Okay, if I want to look at the Constitution, I prefer to read through the Constitution and see what the Constitution provides, the provision of the Constitution on that issue. I think they are concerned. Let's see what that section provides. I have my Constitution with me. Section 134 sub 2 says, a candidate for an election to the office of the president shall be deemed to have been duly elected where there being more than 2 candidates for the election. Sub B says he has not less than 1/4 of votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Now, we've answered this question severally on this station, and we are wondering why Nigerians are still bent on this. Let's not forget that very recently too, we have had PDP, some members of the PDP protests before the Court of Appeal, where the Election Petition Tribunal is holding, and their request is that the Election Petition Tribunal course, we'll get to that shortly. But let's go back to the Constitution with regards to that section 134 sub 2 sub B. Now, a lot of people have argued that the provision that the winner should win in more than at least 2/3 of all the states with more than 25% minimum, and the Federal Capital Territory presupposes that even if you win in all the states, you have more than 25% in all the states, and you don't have 25% in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, then you are not qualified to be the president of Nigeria. I'm sure that a lot of people, especially lawyers, understand that the Constitution can be interpreted. There are several ways of interpretation of statutes needed to cure. However, in this case, I'm not sure there is a mischief that the word "and" here has created. There is no mischief. The "and" there is simply saying that the Federal Capital Territory of Abuja is not seen as a state. It's not called. Hello, let's take that call. Hello? Yes, please, if you can speak louder so we hear properly at the studio.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, can you hear me now?
Sorry, we didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Barasotini? I'm Levi Bossy,
I think there's a technical issue. I'm not hearing well.
I can hear you. I'm clear enough for you. Can you get me?
Okay, I think I can hear you now.
Okay, exactly. I think the problems from your end.
Yes, I think it's from the studio.
Yeah, exactly, because I can hear you loud and clear back here.
All right, thank you very much. Go on.
Yeah, I'm Levi Bossy, by the way. I'm calling from Osoma here.
Levi Bossy from Uyo.
Exactly, from Osoma precisely. You have to include that.
Okay, so I say Uyo in Osoma, right?
No, Osoma in Uyo. Is it all right?
Very well, sir.
Okay, please, my concern, I'm really concerned about this NBC brouhaha and this back and forth between the NBC and the court. I unequivocally agree with the very fact that the NBC has been so overbearing in their sanctions against these broadcast stations, because as far as I'm concerned, each situation is what happening now at the North State. When the woman was announced as the winner of the election, it was televised live on NTA. And as we speak today, the NTA has not been sanctioned. But if anyone sits in any private TV station to criticize the government or to obviously make some astonishing revelations that the government is not comfortable with, I mean, they come down hard on those stations. And this is a classic case of double standards. But my concern as well is before, you know how slow and how rigorous, how cumbersome our court process have been and is right now. So if you want to go the way of the court, before any sanction can be effectively slammed on any media house, won't that take a lot of time for that sanction to be effected? Oh no, and understand that we have about 300 radio stations in this country. We have a barrage of TV stations. And if every single media house will have to go to the court and complete the entire rigorous court process so they can have their sanction, rigorous rules is that going to be for any sanction to be totally completed for the whole court? Because it's going to drag on for a long time.
All right, Levi Bassey, let me assist you. Thank you very much for calling, by the way. All right, you see, the courts are there for a purpose. The purpose is not punitive. If, like, as they go to court, they admit, my lord, we are guilty as charged, tamper justice with mercy. Out of the 500,000, we'll pay 50,000, and the court says no. Go back to NBC and negotiate. They come back with an out-of-court settlement to pay 450,000, and the court enters that as the judgment against them. They pay. Or they come in and say, we do not admit to the liability. The court now looks at it and says, okay, having heard the testimony, we've seen the broadcast, we think by law, NBC would show that this statement is actually not in compliance with the rules of NBC, with the rules of the statutes, okay? I mean, it doesn't have to take forever for judgment to be entered. And they can stay in court for as long as they want to, but it's also going to tell on them because they want spending money to prosecute those cases. In the end, they will also learn and avoid issues that will take them to court. So let's not be dismissive about the fact that these matters can be settled in court amicably if they wish to settle them amicably. So the sanctions that are being imposed on them can actually be paid by the broadcasting house, but let it be paid at the court. That's the idea. You go to court and admit liability, the court will enter judgment. We're looking at section 134 sub 2 of the Constitution, which provides for the 2/3 majority. And our position is that, my position is that, when the court said, when the Constitution said that he has not less than 1/4, that's 25% of the votes cast in the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the federation, and the federal score 25% of votes cast. That was not the intent. The intent of the Constitution at that point was to identify that the Federal Capital Territory also has voting rights that must be recognized. It did not mean to make them super states, such that when you don't score 25%, you have lost the case. Because even in the compulsory questions, people answer all the questions except the compulsory question just carries even a higher mark. The people still pass exams without writing the compulsory questions in the regular exams, let alone the electoral processes. Howbeit, if you go to section chapter 8 of the Constitution, especially part 1 of it, section 2, which are defined in part 2 of the first schedule of this Constitution, then section 2 or 299 comes out to be very clear. It says the provision of this section of the provision of this Constitution shall apply to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, as if it were one of the states of the Federation. As if it were one of the states of the Federation. I mean, that's where the Federal Capital Territory has been clearly defined by the law. If the Constitution here says that you will score 25% in the states of the federation and Abuja. It means Abuja is just like one of the states, not a state you have passed. It's also supposed to be like a punitive provision, but rather an augmenting provision. So you can score 25% in states that do not include Abuja. And when they add up, they are not up to 2/3 of the state. If you add Abuja to it, it's up to 2/3 of the state. Then you are qualified because Abuja is equally one state. It did not say if you score 25% in Abuja alone, you can afford not to score 25% of other 2 states of the state, 2/3 of the states. So that's one provision that we have glossed, a lot of people have glossed over in bringing this application. So when these 5 gentlemen bring this action to court, they are simply saying that where Bola Ahmed Tinubu had failed to score 25% of Abuja, then he's not qualified to be the governor or the president. I'm sure that the person who emerges as the president of Nigeria has a wide spread of acceptability. No, didn't say that not being accepted in Abuja is a death sentence to your election. No. And people have also asked, what's the next step? The numbers to call if you are interested in calling in is 090-222-31011. I repeat that number, 090-222-31011. There's an alternative number to call to, that's the 070-454-17707. Hello. Hello. Okay, then we lost that call. So the alternative number is 070-454. Okay, so like we have said, generally, hello, good evening.
I'm Stanley by name from Ebonyi State.
Stanley from Ebonyi State. Go on, sir.
I so much thank you people who are really in the studio.
Thank you, sir.
Having somebody who is very intelligent like you, I believe there will be a better Nigeria in the future.
Thank you, sir. It's already a good Nigeria. We are getting
I
better.
want our leaders at least to show us a better way to rule this nation or this world.
Okay.
Because the way they are taking politics is not the way we saw it in the early 70s and 80s during Shagari regime.
Okay.
Whereby things were to finger out the new generation on how to manage their leadership in future.
Okay.
It's unfair, and God is watching, and the law of karma is going to take its course.
Okay.
You have said it all, and every eye has been hearing about what you said concerning constitution, concerning section, this and that, in election, money, vote buying, and what have you. So the only thing is that let's call a spade and give it to the man that has won that election, who is fit to be that mandate. Somebody should not take another person's mandate.
Okay.
That is just my own, so that to move this nation forward. Or else the law of karma is going to take it on the 29th of this month we are. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I recommend that you listen keenly to the provisions of the Constitution as we are enumerating them. The man from Ebonyi State, we really appreciate your call. All right, so what we have tried to say is that the Federal Capital Territory does not have a superposition Federal Capital Territory. It's because every other state has a governor and they also have House of Assembly. The Federal Capital Territory, though a state, does not have a governor, they have a minister who superintends over it as a governor. They also do not have a House of Assembly. It's the Senate that legislates over the affairs of the Federal Capital Territory. So the Constitution is trying to say that in case you do not recognize them as a state, so to speak, when I say you would have 25% in at least 2/3 of the state, the Federal Capital Territory is one of the states in this case. So if you add it and you have more than 25, you have 25% in more than 2/3 of the states, including that, then you are good. We never intended to say if you don't have in Abuja, then you are not qualified. Moving from there, we would want to recognize the fact that there are protests, people protesting in Abuja that the inauguration on the 29th day of May 2023 should not go on. And they are asking the Chief Justice of Nigeria and the Court of Appeal not to sway the president. Now, can illegality solve illegality? If the complaint of our people is that the president came in through an illegal means, the only thing they can do is to go to court and ask the court to set aside the election and probably cause a new election to be held, went over a day. That is a president-elect and has to be sworn in. That's the normal course of events. Adeleke in Osun State had the same issue. He was sworn in, and the other party, APC, went to court, won at the election petition court. But the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court set aside the decision of the Court of the election petition. So when you say stop swearing him in until the election petition course is done, who would run the state for that period? Who will run the federation for that period? They must not be vacuuming. Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He says, please come to court. Show us your good reasons. We will nullify his election. If there is need to carry on the election or to conduct a fresh election, we will. If there is no need to conduct a fresh election, we will hand it over to the next person, the first runner-up, the first constitution. Went ahead, I think at sub 3 and 4, to explain that where a party, a candidate, has not won the 2/3 majority of the states, 20% on 2/3 of the states, then there will be a runoff election. The runoff will now be between the person who has won, but not with 2/3 majority of 20 of the states. That's 20% of 2/3 of the states. It will be between him and the person who scored the highest on the rest of the list, where there are more than 2 people contesting the election. So you pick the highest. In this case, Atiku Abubakar would have had to go for a rerun with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the INEC was supposed to have done that 7 days after the election. That's the provision of that law. So when that is done, if at the end it still doesn't have a 2/3 majority of the 28 states, of the states including Abuja, then the third Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not win in Abuja. Everybody that contested the election will run for that office again. No, that's not what that law says. That law says only Atiku Abubakar and Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have to go for. So we have explained the position of the law with regards to that. Now we move towards the people protesting against that swearing in resolution of the election petition matters. Now I think that's totally unconstitutional. The law does not contemplate that on the date slated for swearing in, nobody will be sworn in, whether he won the election or not. It is not the position of the Chief Justice of Nigeria to decide on his own not to swear in a candidate. Why do you go to him and ask him to swear in somebody? No, he's just doing his constitutional duty. He has no interest on who has won, who has not won. All that happens is INEC, who have you given certificate of return, INEC will point the finger at one person, and he goes to that person and swears in that person on the same date. That's simple. If not, there will be chaos. And what the law tries to avoid is that chaos. So INEC has the right, and they perform their function by saying, from the records we have so far, this is the person that has scored the highest number of votes, and he has scored more than 220. If that is not enough for him to be the president of Nigeria, then you approach the court, and the court will decide Otherwise, or the court will confirm the position of INEC. So going to protest, yes, there is a right of protest. The law and fundamental rights provide it should be listened to. But this demonstration should be on legal grounds, and not to say an illegality should be supported by the no less a person than the Chief Justice of the Federation. The Chief Justice of the Federation cannot, is not a court. His office has no powers to interfere in election matters. The only thing his office can do, which is what he has done, was to set up a panel called Election Petition Tribunal, either at the Court of Appeal or at the High Court level. And having done that, his hands are off it. The decision to be made by those courts cannot be sanctioned by him. He might not even be in the appellate court when the matter moves to the Supreme Court. He might not sit in that court by virtue of his position. A panel will sit, and that panel will take those decisions. So we cannot ask the CJN to do what is illegal and pretend that he doesn't know that what he's asking the panel to, by virtue of the pronouncement of INEC, to have won an election. You cannot ask. Their powers does not include stopping an inauguration. Their powers, however, includes asking INEC to withdraw a certificate of return. It also includes an order asking for fresh election. It also includes an order asking that this person be issued, an alternate person be issued a certificate of return. That's all about the powers of the election is pending in their court. That's not how it works. Anyway, that's so much for Legally Speaking today. I really appreciate those that found time to call in. I hope you enjoyed it. It's one of the very rare times we've flown solo, and I think it's quite interesting. Maybe we'll try it out more often to fly solo and have a very, very robust discussion. We hope that let's see how we can get the law down to the grassroots. My name is Anthony Ebuk. I'm a legal practitioner with law partners and associates, and I believe everything you do from now until next week will be legal.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abuse. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police